All right, here we go. Heart Dealer Podcast. Stacey D, how are you today?
I'm doing very good. Excited to talk.
Good. Well, we're definitely going to talk. We're going to feel the feels today. Guitarist, vocalist, songwriter, bad cop, a pile of other bands, dog and cat lover, also co-founder of the Sidewalk Project. Do you sleep? Do you just
It's so
24/7
funny.
motor?
We there's this big birthday book, and it's like got everybody's 365 days of birthdays. And I was born on the day of restless drive. So I think that's what it goes hand in hand. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That sounds like me. Restless Drive. Um, so you've been kind of doing this thing, playing in punk bands in California since you were in your 20s.
Yeah,
I want to
25
know,
years.
sorry?
25 years. I just turned 50.
Congrats. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm encroaching on 46. So I'm right behind you. We're right
It's a
there.
good time to be alive. It's like things finally start making sense, don't they?
They do. You know what's funny is my dad actually once said, like, son, 40 to 50 was the best decade of my life. And then
Mm.
somehow they just kept getting better afterwards.
I keep hearing that too. I just was like, I heard I knew 40 was just a huge life change for me. It's like I went through this massive life change a week before I turned 40. And then it was like everything after that was just building upon this very good life that I now have. And yeah, but it was, and then I heard, 50s are even better. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
I mean, I
Definitely
think
feels like a milestone.
yeah, we get older, we get wiser, but I think that like other things start settling into place. Like a lot of us will have our kids by then. A lot of us will have at least had a marriage or had a long-term relationship. Whether it sticks or not is a different story. But like some of these bigger milestones get out of the way, and then you focus more and more on just what makes you happy, what fulfills you.
Yeah, it's true.
So what led to punk rock? Like where was little Stacey D and when
Mm,
did she say, "Oh my God, music is the thing"?
right. So, like you were saying, you come from a family of music makers and I do too. My father is an incredible singer-songwriter. We're from San Francisco, and he had a band called Jamocha playing reggae in 72 in the city, which was pretty early on to be playing reggae in the city, but, they were doing, like, Jimmy Cliff covers, and they had this really great female singer, so I always was able to see this, like, female, representation in even my own father's band, which was very cool, and then growing up with him, he is like he was home a lot. He's a musician. So he was like, we're going to record today, and we would record from reel to reel and he'd write some stuff and then I'd just sing. And then for years and years and years, he would try to get me to play guitar, but I was always like, I'd go into the band room and I would say, I could play a little bit of the piano. Drums was the first thing I ever played at 4 years old. My dad had a kit set up in our house, and I went well, he had his bandmates over, and I went and sat behind the kit and started playing, and my dad was like, "Sue, you gotta get in here, she's playing the drums." So it's like just something that naturally I knew how to do, but guitar, I was always like, I'm never gonna learn you." But then, after a lot of partying in my teens and trying to find some purpose and place for myself in life. At 20, I finally picked up the guitar and I moved to Santa Barbara, California, and 3 years later, I moved back and said, "Dad, I think I'm a songwriter." And he was like, "Okay, whatever. You are a disaster," And then I go, "Let me play a song for you." And he couldn't believe it. He jumped out from behind the kitchen wall and was like, "We have to record that." So that's kind of where my dad was definitely seeing that and being around somebody that played music and sang all the time and had bands. And I was actually, when I was born, I moved into the band house. They all lived together. So as I've been around, people playing music in a room together and jamming, and my mom used to say, it's so funny when you were a baby, like trying to put you to bed was a nightmare because you just wanted to be in the middle of everything. And they could all be playing music in the room, and if I just let you lay on the floor, you'd fall asleep and be fine. And the same is true today. Like I could sleep in the middle of a loud concert room. I could sleep. I have like a comfort to it, which is pretty funny. And then I had like little singing groups, and I grew up in this trailer park in Half Moon Bay or Moss Beach, California. And I had like I tried like little singing groups with two other girls, and then with one other girl, and then with two friends from high school. And, it never really took. It never really took until I was older.
What was sorry, my my mouse is being finicky. What was, family like for you? It sounds like you had a really cool home and your parents, like, encouraged you to follow music overall. Was that the general
Yeah,
consensus?
I mean, I grew up in a family of positive drug users. I grew up in a drug positive home, I mean, I was like, around it my entire life. And, I watched my dad struggle with alcoholism my entire life. And that was really tough. My mom was a partier too, but she always knew how to like hold it down, and she always worked and and provided for our family. Um, yeah, so my the one thing that my family did offer me was the belief in me and my music and
Uh,
I should say. There was some tough times in there growing up. I mean, in the 90s, I don't know if you remember, but like meth was a really big thing, and like my whole
yeah.
family was on fucking meth, and then all my friends were on meth, and I was the only one holding out, and then all of a sudden I was on meth, and here I am fucking tweaking for days and up for weeks. And then a couple years go by and you go, holy shit, you look around and everybody's younger than you, and I can't keep doing this shit. But my dad
Yeah.
went and got sober. My mom got off the shit. I got off the shit. And quite honestly, picking up my guitar at 20 was the thing that gave me that purpose. So I think that for my family, they were just so stoked that I had literally come home to what I was always supposed to do. I mean, if you had asked me at 4 or 5 years old what I wanted to be when I grew up, it was a singer, and I did it. So that was the thing that they're probably the most, well, no, they're proud of the Sidewalk Project too, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you should be proud of all of it. There's so many accomplishments along the way, and it's funny. Like we've all got our vices, we've all had our problems in life, and I've talked to so many different people who had parents that abused, and then because of that, they were turned off of it. I've had parents like friends with parents that were clean, and because of that, they chose to. And there's all the different permutations of how that is.
Right.
Do you think that your choice to do some of that stuff was because you saw them doing it, or was it something specific that triggered the use?
Well, I'll be honest, like when I was really little, there's two things I'll share with you. My mom and dad, they did a lot of cocaine too, and we had this like um telescope lens that was cut in half. It kind of rocked, but it was had a flat surface. And so they did cocaine off of that thing all of the time. And like being a little girl that wants to do what her mother does, my mom would walk past it and run her finger over it and then run it on her gums. And I
Uh,
would, I'd go right behind her and I would do the same thing. Now that I was little kid, 5, 6, first grade. Second grade was when I started stealing their roaches and taking them in my room and trying to smoke them. And although I know, you don't get high or anything off the first couple times you try it. And then I remember my dad finding all of this shit that I stole of theirs under in my bed. And he goes, "We need to talk." And I was like, "I just don't want you guys to do it anymore." But like secretly, I just wanted to try it too because I
mm.
wanted to be like them. They're very cool people and they had very cool people around. And my dad, I always really wanted to be like my dad. I mean, even as a little kid, they had to get me a pack of fake kid razors because they caught me like trying to shave one day because I wanted to do what my dad did. Like I just I just I guess just had the biggest crush on him. Um,
That's that's okay. I've got 3 little girls in my house too, and there's something really special about a daddy-daughter bond, so I totally understand that.
yeah. And, my dad used to come to school and play music at school for like, once a year, we'd like sing songs in class or he'd, come and play for the play or paint for the play or, so he kind of really dove in there with me, which was pretty cool. And yeah, I just really wanted to be like him. Yeah. So then, and then I didn't do anything. I was a good kid in elementary school. I think in fifth grade, I tried to smoke a joint with another older girl, and didn't get stoned or anything. And then at 14, as you do when you are a lifelong pot smoker, you figure out how to get a big bag of brown weed. And we went to the city. We would go up to San Francisco and like 14th and 16th and Mission and Dolores Park. You'd be able to get like for $40 like a bag of weed. And we were like, oh my God, we were so excited. So that's kind of when I really started smoking weed every day. And I guess I've always just been adventurous when it comes to drugs. It's like some people, I've watched people do drugs that should just never, ever, ever do drugs. You know what I mean? Like their brains just aren't wired to handle it. Whereas I always was like fucking solid. I know how to do this, like good at it. I'm good at it. And then
Yeah.
and then it started carrying on like 14 was weed, 15 was weed. I think that we started taking like acid and mushrooms at 15 and then ecstasy and raving came in and going to raves was a big thing. And so I used to take a lot of ecstasy and I'd have parties at my house. My parents were very cool in that they'd let me party at the house. And so I wasn't out hurting myself. They knew that at least I was safe at home and the kids were safe at home. So there was a lot of partying that went on in the house, and so being part of like rave culture and oh, puppy, and all of that, like at the beginning of when all that stuff was, it was very drug fueled, and and yeah, I just kept letting myself say say yes. And then, all of a sudden, everybody's on meth, and that's when things kinda turned to dark, like, the
Uh,
ecstasy and the acid and the weed and I never was a big drinker, so, um, I ever until recent I like to drink wine now, but, I never was a big drinker, but then, that the meth turned everything dark, it really did. My family life fell apart. My mom and dad broke up. My dad had to get sober to live, and he was just 40 at the time. And so, I mean, and if you saw our home at that time, it was just fucking wrecked. It was a total fucking meth fuck. It was so fucking gross. I think about it. I think about it sometimes and I go, could I ever have possibly done that? How
uh,
could I have ever lived like that? How could I have ever but, it was just everything that was around me, so it was kind of also normal at the time. It's just so gross. I held on to that shit for so many fucking years that only now am I able to go back and go, "You only really did that for, like, 2, 3 years of your life." Like, that wasn't who you were and who you were gonna be and all of that kinda stuff, like so, yeah, I mean my dad then at 40, he left and he got his shit together and he got his music back. He started, writing all these songs. He put out a couple records by himself. He was like, he really just, got his life back in every way. Was just super positive guy. He was part of like men's groups of men helping men be better men. And I mean, it's just like the same shit that I do now. It's so funny. It's like, yeah.
well, it sounds like you and your dad are on similar paths, and I wanna talk about kind of the middle, of life, but I'll go forwards
Sure.
first because this new album is really good, and obviously, you've
Thanks.
mentioned this in other interviews, but thematically, you went in a different direction. You went in a much more positive, let's start to heal and look through the past. I'm a big believer that like you just said, we're some of our actions, right? So like we're gonna do stupid shit. We're gonna fuck up in life. We're gonna make so many decisions that we're not proud of. But that doesn't mean that we're bad people. We're human. We're fallible. We'll make mistakes as long as we learn from those and keep making more good than bad
Right,
decisions.
right, yeah.
Then we can hopefully forgive ourselves and live life loving ourselves. It sounds like you've had a big shift in that regard.
Huge. Yeah, I'll dive in. So like thank you for saying what you said about lighten up. It was the first time since in 10 years since I changed my life that I was able to look at some of those things because I was so afraid that if I dwelled in that energy that I would go back to being a negative minded person, and I was just so desperately scared of that. Like, that's just I had to take those years and in the years of Warriors and the ride, they were, it was just unapologetically strong, and, that's it. It didn't really dive into some of the reasons of why, I had to be,
Mhm.
um, and, yeah, so 10 years ago, I had to go to detox for for a Xanax and cocaine issue. I was really addicted to Xanax. I was popping like 2 to 3 bars of that shit a day, and I was 100 pounds. I was living in the bottom part of this house in Inglewood, California. I saw depravity and poverty and hurt all around me, and that just enforced how I felt, right? It was just like
Mhm.
everything that I felt inside was everything that I saw on the outside, and that is just such a huge truth to human nature, and something that we're not really even taught humans, that is, soon as my life started getting better, I stopped seeing all of the hurt and the stuff. Like, there was animals dumped in the park across the street from my house. Is just about once a week I'd go down there and there'd be like a whole family and a litter of puppies, and it was like, "Ah!" like I rescued a blind kitty out of the middle of the street who got adopted by Ryan Young from Off of Their Heads because he lived with me at the time. Renee and Ryan took the kitty, but like it was just like I just kept seeing, I was just so sad and sick that that's what I saw in life was just the sad and sick shit. So, I had a very public bottoming out on the Fat 25-year anniversary tour, and fought my bandmates and fought everybody there that day. I have people come up to me every once in a while still that go, "Hey, do you remember when you yelled at me in the parking lot in Minneapolis?" And I was like, "I don't even know who you are." You know what I mean? Like, that's how far out of it I was. I gotta let my dog out. You just go out real quick, pup. Um, yeah. So after that, I had to. The band gave me an ultimatum and said, "You got to get better, or this is over with you in it." And I cared about this more than I had worked my whole fucking life to get to a point where I was able to go tour and play these big shows and be included with all the bands that I had loved my whole life. And here I was, just like, as soon as I got just fucking it up, But quite
Yeah.
honestly, on the way to that tour, I was trying to, I was trying to take less Xanax by taking more Klonopin. It's like, I don't even know how that makes any sense. And then on the way out to the tour, I found out that my cousin Brendan, who's in the song "Dead Friends" on our record, he died, and he was like my first best friend and somebody that was just so important to me, and so I was like, trying to hold it together, but like death makes people do crazy shit, and all I wanted to do was take fucking pills and drink and do cocaine and to be accepted by all the rock stars around me. And I was just like this nervous, weird, anxious, fucked up, energy around people. And yeah, so I got flown. I fought Lynn, and she's a black belt in karate. And so I ended up on my back in a puddle with a blown out ACL, I had the knee injury prior, but like it just was re-injured from the altercation. And then I got flown out of there. I was at the hospital. I got flown out of there and to Vegas where I was still doing a lot of blow and drinking and pills. And then when I got home, the band came over and said, "We need you to go to rehab or whatever." And I was like, "I just need detox. I just need to get off this stuff safely and then I'll be okay." So, Fat Records, they're so great and they paid for me. Aaron, I love you so much for spending that money on me to go to detox. Got I was there for 10 days and then when I got out is when the shit hit the fan, dude. I was like sober for the first time in my life, really. And Xanax, I don't know if you know, it's like they say opiates are just so hard to get off of. It's painful and all that, but like benzos are fucked because like it your mental the thing it was just the mental was crazy. When I got out of detox and I was sober, I was seeing things that weren't there. I was orally hallucinating. I would like hear my cat meow and then go up and he's sleeping. I was like, okay, this is fucked. And I went the first night that I got out was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and it was because I didn't know what was happening to me, and it was taking me from one life into this new life, right? And it was a choice I made that night, and I've said this in other interviews, but like that night I was calling my parents back and forth from each other, and because they're not together, and I was like, one minute I'd be like, "You raised a strong child," and then the next minute I'd be like, "I'm dying." And my dad finally said, "Stacey, you've got to ask the universe to stay with you." And I was just so afraid of thinking of anything. I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of everything. And puppy. And I started hyperventilating and repeating a mantra. So I kept going, "Universe, please stay with me. Please stay with me. Please stay with me. Please stay with me." Because I was afraid to think of anything else. And then I slipped into this state of being that felt better than any time I had ever felt in my life. It felt better than any drug I had been on. It felt like I was literally vibrating on the top of my bed, which is why the record cover of Lighten Up is that image. It was like, because that's what it felt like I was going through. And in that time, I was like, this is crazy as shit. I saw myself going around. I saw some weird visions. It was like, I know it sounds crazy, but this is the absolute fucking truth. I saw myself going around to NA and AA meetings with one of my best friends, um, getting people to join this movement called something else, where it was like, no, they say that the insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting, things to change. And so it was like in NA and AA meetings, the people in those rooms are already connected and looking for that movement into something else, a different life path or something. So that was the first thing that I saw. And then the second thing that I saw was if I was living my best life, I was traveling around the world helping people rebuild after natural disasters,
Mhm.
how it was aligned by their spirit. So like I always knew I wanted to be a musician and getting to do that gives me a leg up, right? It's like that already gives me a purpose and potential to be happy because I get to do my dream. I get to live my dream. And so that was kind of how it started. And then I was doing it and at the end of the this vision thing, I'm up on this hill and like I had this very young boyfriend at the time and I was holding the very young boyfriend's hands and I saw myself I was pregnant on the top of this hill. And then I was like, "Oh my god." And then I like start slipping out of this thing and I start just crippled with anxiety and my body
Mhm.
was just so sick from getting off of pills and all of that kind of stuff. And just what I was going through was just debilitating. And so I go out into the living room and my friend Dawn, who's in the song Straight Out of Detox. So this is about the night that I got out of detox. Um, Dawn was there and I was like, "Oh, I'm just miserable. I think I'm dying and all of this stuff." And then at 5 in the morning, I get this text from the boyfriend who goes, "I just had the weirdest dream." And I go, I knew what he was gonna say. I knew it. And I called him and I go, tell me. He goes, you told me you were pregnant. And I go, I know, I just fucking saw that. Whatever that was, I just saw that. And so, whatever that energy was, I chose to start gravitating towards that kind of connection and energy in the universe and on this planet as humans, as whatever this, however this, shit really works, and that was the first step, and then there was like lots of weeks and months of me seeing things that weren't there out of the corners of my eyes, and having to overcome it. But I was able to recognize my thoughts for the first time in my life and not be a victim of them. I was able to say, that's not real, get the fuck out of here. And I
Uh-huh.
would place it with positive stuff, whether it was affirmations, whether it was watching House Hunters and stuff instead of murder shows. You know what I mean? It was like I felt like I got sucked from one perspective into another, which I'm just so grateful for. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, not a lot of people get that opportunity the way that I did. And I felt like I was getting a crash course on how to live a good life from the universe. Like every day I'd be like, and then this, and then this, and then this, like just things that I never even thought of, having been such a sad, sick person.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. I'm so happy for you and for the change. Not everyone gets to experience that. It sounds
Mm-mm.
like it was a very much a, you know,
It's a spiritual
archetypal.
awakening, dude. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, it sounds like it was the archetypal. I hit bottom and there's nowhere else to go but up. And now I have to just choose to do that. And
Right.
you've persevered.
It was so crazy. I mean, I was on the phone with my dad and he was like, "It's okay. I've relapsed, and if you have to relapse and go back on these pills, just do it. You're suffering, and sweet dad's just like trying to protect me. But at the same time, I was like, what am I going to do? I couldn't even get my fucking doctor who gave me all that shit on the phone. She wouldn't talk to me anymore. She was like, just tell Stacy I'm not going to give her any uh, drugs. Just tell her I'm not
Mhm.
going to give her anything. I'm not going to give her anything." And I was like, all I wanted to do was ask her what the fuck was happening to me, because it was seriously like an acid trip by myself for fucking, it felt like weeks. But the
Uh,
truth was, I would think 3 days went by and it was only 30 minutes. It was fucking wild, dude. My perception of time. And I mean, I lost so many of the songs that I had written. I gone. People I had met and known, gone, just completely erased from my memory. It was the hardest fucking thing I ever did. And quite honestly, I'd look in the mirror and like one people would be huge and one would be little. And then it felt like I was just trying to dial back into life. It was,
yeah.
it was, it was something else, man.
You've obviously changed your mindset. I feel like even with your music and your lyrics, it was around 2017, like that album, that there was already a little bit of positivity or more so.
Yeah.
Just a couple lyrics, stronger each day, making my way. And then you also had community, right? So my
Right.
community is always there for me, everything I need. Talk to me about not just the support you had, but like what are some of the things that you did to stay in that positive mindset? Because I'm always curious about people's tools. Some people meditate, some
Right.
people just rely on the community. What did you do?
The first year, what I had to do, I made my mom come stay with me because I was afraid that first week that I was going to get up and go run into the woods and never be seen again. You know what I mean? I was totally afraid of myself. And so I made my mom come stay with me, and I was having fucking night terrors. I was having night terrors that felt so real. I'd go out in the morning at like 5 in the morning and be like, "Mom, this happened." And she was like, "It didn't. That didn't happen." Um, so I had I I had to figure something out for myself, and that was the first time in my life where I couldn't rely on somebody else to fix my problems.
Right.
Like um, nobody could do it, so I had to fucking figure it out. And I was just like, I was so broke. I was like, I've got to get into outpatient care. I've got to take my care of myself after what I just went through, because I don't have the tools, and nobody can tell me except for it gets better. It gets better. And I was like, okay, but that's not helping me understand what the fuck is happening to me. Um and so I found this woman um one day, and I thought, "Oh boy, I'm going to have to go into outpatient. I'm going to have to be there all day. I won't be able to work. I'm going to have to pay like $50 a class. I can't afford that. I'm not going to be able to do any of this." And she gets on the phone. She goes, "Oh no, it'll be $50. You'll come once a week." And I was like, "What?" And it was just therapy. And I walked in the first day. I walked in to see her, and I only went for like 4 times. Um, I was like, "Can my mom come too?" I was so fucking scared, and I was like afraid to, to take on my life on my own.
Yeah.
And she goes, "I think you could do this by yourself. I don't think that you need your mom." And I went in there shriveled like this, filled with anxiety and hurt and pain and confusion. And I left being able to go to a grocery store, and I left being able to go that night up to Amoeba in Hollywood. And then the next day I turned 40, and so um that was the first thing that I did for myself, was that I got myself into the room with this woman, and she was just glowing. She always wore all white, and it just felt like she was glowing because I was literally, I mean, if you can imagine feeling like you're on an acid trip by yourself. You're just like, I'm holding on, I'm white knuckling it, you know what I mean? Like so hard. Not because I wanted to use drugs, but because I didn't know what was happening to me. And she was just like, "Oh no, everything that you're saying, that's the negative, and you have to reinforce it with positive." And so she goes, I told her, I go, I'd be making my bed, and then my brain would be like, "Oh, you fucking suck. You're ugly. You got bad teeth, and you just are a terrible person. All the things that you've done." And then like I said, I was able to finally recognize it and say, "Get the fuck out of here. That's not real. That's not real." Um, I mean, the first couple days first couple weeks or months out of detox, I couldn't listen to anything but pop music or jazz. I couldn't listen to punk rock. It was just it was too much. It's just so funny. But like, I just kept taking those steps, and like, instead of, I realized that the things that we say to ourselves are so damn important. And so I stopped telling myself that I had anxiety and depression, and I fucking started telling myself that I had a happy, positive life. And sure as shit, dude, like a year later, I was living a much different fucking reality. One that I didn't see the suffering around me so much anymore. I was, living a happy, positive, loved life.
That's amazing. I mean, we started this conversation by me saying that I'm love and logic, and for me, that's the big picture, and right, like everything that's not love, fear, etc., is just the absence of love. There's light and
Right,
darkness, and it's
right.
crazy how much things change when you ask for help, and B, you start taking small steps, and
Yes,
C, when you start to talk in a positive way about yourself and other things. So
yes.
you're doing those things, or sorry, you did those things to kind of get the
That's
snowball
right,
going.
and I had a big whiteboard, and on the whiteboard, I put in the middle, "I am," and then all around it, I put strong, beautiful, awesome, badass, positive, happy. I just put all of these affirmations so I would see it every day, and then when it would get a little dull to me, I'd redo it, and so I would feel that. I mean, and that board I had around me for maybe, oh gosh, maybe a good 5, 6 years after going through this life change. I really did. I would, and then, and then also as a vision board, I'd write things down that I would want to have happen and by what time. And then you start seeing that kind of stuff unfold and show up in your life as well. It's just so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah. But as you were saying that, like, yeah, community, my band, when I got out and I was like, "Oh, this is how you have to have a good life," everybody got on board. Nobody was like, "You're whack, you're fucking lame." Everybody was like, "Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right." And we kind of took off because our collective mental health was
mhm,
positive and happy and fun, and we were great people to be around, and people wanted us around because we were a benefit to other people's joy. So the band really really helped, and yeah, and dear friends of mine, like my partner at the Sidewalk Project, Soma, and her ex-husband, Fat Mike, they were, you know, really helpful and helping me get back on my feet financially. And Mike just gave us so many different shots with the band, because I think he really believed. He I mean, he they couldn't believe what had happened with me going through this change either. They were like, oh my God, look at you, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, Community was a huge one, and then that Retrograde song, it was true. It was like that was just the beginning. I didn't even know how to write songs from a fucking positive perspective. You know, I just didn't, and I needed a lot of help when we wrote Warriors. With Davey Warsop, I was like with Broken, my song Broken. It starts off with I'm broken, and I thought I was going to dive into being a broken person. I was like, I'm not a broken, I don't want to be a broken person. How do I change this? And then I made it so that what it was the truth. Like I never took accountability for shit in my life. I just blamed it on everything fucking else and then called myself a broken person instead of taking, my life and fucking fixing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite honestly, and like when I got out of detox, dude, I had like $10 in my bank account. I had 5 points on my driver's license. I was 100 pounds. You know what? And I had to continually just keep not go back and be like, dude, you're never going to fucking fix this. It just was like, nope, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other,
Yeah.
one foot in front of the other. And then as I'm starting to fix all this stuff in 2018, I got sick twice and
Mhm.
ended up in the hospital. And then at the end of the year, found out that I had fucking breast cancer.
Yeah.
So it was like, all those tiny steps of me building to fix myself got me ready to battle one of the biggest things that I was ever going to have to go through.
I mean, that's a crazy story. I knew, a lot of that. I feel like in life, we kind
Cheers.
of getting universally what we need until we've learned the lesson, and oftentimes, if something bad happens, I do believe that bad things are just good things in disguise, but those things
Same.
might set us up for the ability to handle that challenge down the road, right? So, like, you went through so much, you persevered. A lot of people might then have gotten cancer and said, "Oh, fuck, again, something else?" Or you could adopt the mentality where it's like, "I've been through all this and this, so I can handle this."
That's right. And then with that, I dove into yoga and meditation so super hard because like I said before, I was super afraid that that something was going to take this perspective away from me and I was going to end up back on the other side. And
Mhm.
I desperately I was desperate to foster this connection that I feel like I have with the universe and myself and humanity and animals and plants. And I just think that like God, it's the old adage, you get what you give.
Yeah.
And we're taught that as little kids, but not really. We're not really that like the more you give the good stuff, the more good stuff you get back, and it's just so fucking true. And I hope people are able to hear that and let it sink in,
Yeah,
because life can be really fucking good. I know, like right now, what's going on in the world is terrible. What's going on in our country is fucking terrible, and it's scary. And but again, like you said, like overcoming things is where the good shit is, and it really, 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 really is. And quite honestly, um, I do feel that gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
that's okay, that's okay. So, it's funny, I just recently spoke with another, young, female musician in California. Her name's Margarita Monet, uh, and if I got her name wrong, I'm so sorry, but she's, the lead singer of this, like, kind of symphonic metal band, and she was very lovely and kind of like, reserved and shy, but not in a bad way, that's just her personality, and on stage, she's just roaring, and I asked her, I said, like, "What's the switch? Like, how do you do that?" And she said, it's in my mind, I just tell myself, I'm just like, "It's go mode," and I said, "Isn't it fascinating how our minds are so strong that we can
Oh my God,
literally change our personalities just by saying so?" And it
just
sounds
like
like
that.
you've done so much of that with your healing.
So much of that work, and that is I think that's where I was going, is that I didn't want to lose my connection to the universe and to what I have done so much, that's why I kind of really dove into the meditation and the yoga and the work that goes behind all of that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So if I've got a problem, I get on the yoga mat and I'll hear my intuition go, you just let them come to you. You know what I mean? You just, that what you have to, or you're being this way and this is you, dude, and you need to fucking correct it. and vibe higher or do something. You're sitting in this funk of some shit that you don't need to, need to do. It's been such a great tool for me because I really hear the answers to the fucking things that I need to figure out or get through. Yeah.
Sounds like you've used so many of the, the proverbial tools to kind of get to where you are. I spent a lot of time in university also smoking way too much weed. I failed out God knows how many times at university because I was a chronic and had to write letters to the school about like I have an addiction and please let me back in. And then there was other things and partying. I really wasn't taking myself or life seriously. And then I got to an age where I discovered the web design and websites, and I almost felt guilty for all the time I wasted, and then I
Mm.
just start to double and triple and quadruple down on how much I was working in a healthy way, not in an addictive way. Do you now, having gone through, so much, feel any of that impulse with your charity and giving back? Because it sounds like that's one of your main, motivators now is helping.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in those in that what happened to me when I got out of detox that night, it feels like I'm doing what I was always supposed to do, and helping other people figure out how to get here too, because I was there and I know what that suffering is like. I know how people get stuck in that kind of loop. I have been quite honestly, I have been m the hardest thing to do is to use words to tell people how it is possible to change.
Mhm,
I choosing the right words, the words that shoot to a person the way that counselor, that therapist shot to me in those early
mhm.
days. Um, it it has been an ongoing process, and a lot of it comes through my songs, where I'm trying to like give an instance on how things were so tough, but how personally people can overcome and um and be better for it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but with Sidewalk Project, yeah, it was like the funniest thing. Soma had just gotten sober after me, 6 months after me. And I had gone up there actually like a month or two after I got off of the pills and went up to help her um, navigate her trying to get off all the shit she was on. And then 6 months later, she was off of it. And I was driving down the road and I was thinking about her and I go, what's next for my friend Soma? And I heard immediately, I don't know, in my spirit or in my brain, I heard charity work and you need to help her. And she's the executive director and the lead. She's boots on the ground. She is a fucking fierce, wonderful, uh, um, woman who's just gonna, fight for all of the things that she believes in. And I'm on the back end making sure that we're compliant so she can continue all of that great work.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's Sidewalk Project is it's incredible. It's gnarly. You know what I mean? We have the first of its kind drop-in center for women in Skid Row, and we have to navigate all of that. I mean, women who are sex workers, women who have been sexually exploited, women who have been sexually abused, women who have had to use sex work to survive. Just so many different walks of life come through our doors, and trying to get people their needs met as well as some healing has been kind of our main focus, like getting people housed and getting people first, it might just be wound care. It might just be food that day. It might just be clothing that day. It might just be outreach and getting somebody for the first time to use safely instead of, using the same, you know, used syringe over and over again, use safely so you don't spread disease and so you don't hurt yourself and die from an abscess or any of that kind of stuff. Or so it just kind of starts with that kind of, but then it's community, man.
Uh,
Then it's community. Then it's, women who feel like they've got other good women in their lives, and you see women wanting more for themselves and wanting, what their friends have around them and that are doing a little bit better. And then you see people making self-determined, choices, and you see people, healing a little bit.
that's awesome. Is there in that work that you do, is there like a specific thing that works better than others? Is it, I'm sure like there's so many different instances and cases in each thing. Is there a general thing that works, or is it literally case by case?
It's consistency and community.
Mm,
Consistency in community, not letting people drop away, just because you don't think that you've got, enough time for them. One woman here in Long Beach. There's this woman that I met at the Ralphs, and she's, an older woman, and I was like, what are you doing? Can I help you? Is there anything that I could grab for you from the store for you? Is there anything? And she was like, um, yeah, it's some shampoo maybe. And I was like, okay. So I went and got her some stuff and came out, and then we just kind of ended up talking. And she was like, I go, well, I might be able to get you a hotel room from time to time. Here's my number. And she hit me up, and then I was able to get her into hotels for a while, but she was in a very abusive relationship with this guy who, she wasn't telling me that at first, but then she dropped little hints like, "Stacy, he bit a chunk out of my arm," and I was like, "God damn it. This isn't good enough for you. This isn't good enough." And then she kind of wanted to stay in that, so I had to kind of step away a little bit because I don't have the funds just to support your life in a hotel for the rest of your life. I
yeah.
can't do it. But I said, if there's other things that I could do to help. And then finally she called me. She said, "Stacy, I'm done with this. I want to get off the street. Will you help me get into a shelter?" And so I turned one of our case managers, Christina, on, and we got her in so quick. And she was like, "I'm so happy." She's like, "I'm so happy." You know what I mean? I'm like, safe. I'm so happy. And so I stay in contact with her, and just those little things, just making being consistent in people's lives, and
Yeah.
not letting them drop, fall through the cracks.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast is not just getting to know like, artists and creatives behind companies and music that I like, but because conversation is one of the most important things that we have as a tool, period, right? Like
Yeah.
if you don't love yourself and someone else shows you some love, there's a greater chance of you finding that or support or believing in each other. And it sounds like you've been given that so much that it allowed you to then feel that for yourself. And now you are sharing that outwardly with the community as much as possible.
That's right. Like, some of us are like out there, and they want, we want to fight the injustices in the world. Like my partner and I are on polar opposite sides because she's ready to burn it all down, whereas I'm ready to heal it. You know what I mean? So I'm like those two things, but they go hand in hand. You know what I mean? Like you've got to be able to fight for the right things, and then be able to take what we already have and focus. Here's one of the greatest gifts I could ever share with anybody that might be listening to this. And I know it sounds simple and stupid, but like when you focus on the simple, beautiful things in life, you just get more and more of the beautiful, simple things in life. So, like the love for your puppy, the going out and like looking at flowers and being like, "Oh my God, you are gorgeous." You know what I mean? Like seeing that in your friends and being like, "Oh my God, look at you right now," or any of that simple, beautiful shit is really what the universe is begging us to focus on. I truly believe. I truly believe it because, like, I think, and I honestly think that that's how the world changes. If we get more people focusing on on the great stuff rather than the injustice. And there's so much of it. There's so much of it that it made me so sick that I wanted to kill myself. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's not good enough. That's unhealthy behavior to focus on all of the negative shit in the world. And I know that people want to fix things and they want to be upset about it, and fuck yeah, but like don't let it ruin your life.
Yeah.
Don't let it ruin your life. Find other things to focus on that are great because life still is great. It's still
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I mean, I learned a lot of these lessons in similar ways where, I went through a separation release recently, and now a divorce is going to be my second divorce. And it took me all these things to start to realize like maybe I should be looking at myself, like I'm the the consistent
I'm
factor
the
here.
I'm the factor here. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm the factor. And you know what? Once you start to, I've always wanted to help everyone, but I wasn't helping myself in a lot of
Right.
ways. When I
Right.
needed to do the work on myself to be able to give that back. Uh, my business partner, Lance, now, and one of my best friends, we have a 10-year difference in age, and we're very different on different socio political topics, like complete opposites. But we love each other our relationship is rooted in love and we communicate. So just because he thinks this and I think that doesn't mean he's bad or I'm bad. It just means that we have a different opinion. Uh, and through that love, through the conversation, we tend to just realize as a society that, oh, we might disagree, but on most things we actually do agree. We're not
Right.
that dissimilar.
Right. I think that that is I think that we're getting tricked a lot politically that we're so much different than each other if we are on different sides of the fence. And I do not agree with MAGA Republicans in this country. But I don't hate my neighbors if they happen to lean one way or another
Yeah.
politically. I just feel like you just said there's a lot more love there and a lot more in common than and I think social media blows that up. I think that like, people I mean, again, I am not a fan of anything MAGA in this country. And so I tend to not go there at all, but like, you know, I don't know. I just I don't want division. I want inclusion. I want connection. I think that people desperately need that. I think that that is the healer of it all. I mean, remember when we were in tribes and everybody had their place and their thing to do and they brought something to the table that was unique and great and we've lost a lot of that.
I had a chat recently with Shad, a rapper in Toronto, really, really smart guy, family man, speaker, etc. And he brought up a really cool point that stuck with me. And I said, I'm going to use it. So I'm using it. He said, remember the days, like 20, 30 years ago where we had totally different opinions. You could grow up in a house where
Yeah.
everyone was voting a different way, but no one cared because they judged you on your character, how you showed up.
Yeah.
And I love that you are so authentic and so punk rock that you're showing up, that you're being open about like, the hardships and hitting the bottom and hurting people and having to make amends because that's the journey. You are in such a great spot because of what has happened to you and you're now leveraging that for positivity and that's your character. Your character is positive, loving and giving.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
so
dude. I guess just got to say 10 years on September 7th was when I went into detox. I got out September 17th and then I turned 40 on the 22nd of September. And so now I'm 10 years and
nice.
my life has I couldn't ask for anything more. I couldn't possibly. I'm sitting around going, okay, what's my next goals? I mean, bad cop on Saturday Night Live. What am I shooting for here? I've
Yeah.
got I've got such a great life. I've got a great partner. I've got a great home. I've got a great foundation. I've got a great group of friends and women. I've got great women in my life. We're not weird to each other. We're not judgmental and trying to take from each other and competitive. We want to give and build up and, you know, uh, live together and love each other. I mean, quite honestly, dude, a life is just so freaking good now. I'm just and then the other thing, gratitude, kids.
Yeah.
Grateful. I'm grateful every day. I mean, I go around the corner and there's these white roses, the little white roses, and they smell so damn good that when I smell it, I go, oh, I just connect with the universe and I go, I'm just so grateful for my life, like smelling that beautiful rose. And,
Yeah.
and then that makes my day better. That puts me in a different headspace and energy in the world.
100%. I mean, I lost a little girl earlier this year. She lived for about a week. It was
Oh my
really
God.
it's okay, it's okay. This is a positive story. I kid you not, last night, because I'm a very spiritual guy as well, and I believe that we're all connected and the universe is much more intricate than we can even imagine.
Right. Yes.
I couldn't sleep, and around 4 in the morning, I just woke up, and for some reason, I had her name, Nova, and current or currents in my head. It was Nova Currents, new current. And then I started to think about current and I was like, current means present, current means now, but current also means the water. And then I was like, oh man, like you have to be present to truly go with the flow. And when you are in the flow, you are present. And you said that answer is, I really genuinely believe that so much of it is rooted in gratitude. You just have to be grateful for who you are, what you have, and remain now in order to see what you're seeing with the universe, right? The connections.
I'm so sorry for your loss, sweetie. That is just gotta be some of the toughest. You said we were gonna cry, now here it is.
Well, don't start because then I'll start.
Oh my god, I don't even know what to say other than I'm glad that you got her for the week that you got her, and you're never not gonna not remember and love that baby, and I'm just my heart goes out to you so hard.
Thank you. And it's funny, that's exactly how I see it. It's an unrealized positive. I can throw my life away and be, like,
Right.
ruined over this, or I can say, "There's a lesson to be learned here." I can find all the positives possible. You know what the craziest part is? And I haven't shared this before, but after my partner and I had her cremated, which was also a very special experience, they gave her to me in a heart-shaped box, and I
Oh,
was a huge Nirvana fan, still am, and I was like, "Oh my god, isn't it wild how something can happen in your life, and that thing you've lived with for so long takes on a whole new meaning? Because now that song for me is like, I just think of her now.
oh, that's wonderful.
That's wild. Well, listen,
Well,
I
no,
don't
that's really great stuff, though. I mean, follow that energy because that is where I get so many answers, and quite honestly, I like one day I was driving down the. This is so mundane, but I was like, who is that guy? That guy, oh my god, his name is Ron. What was his last name?" And I was like, "Fuck, I don't remember." Driving down the street, and all of a sudden, I look up at this street sign, and his last name popped up on the street, and I go, "That's what it fucking was!" It was like the answer just came right then and there, you know. It's like so cool to look for those kind of signs everywhere in life, and I bet for the rest of your life that it will just be such a great, wonderful reminder, no matter where you go, what you do, anytime, anywhere, you see something like that, or you're just gonna have that. You're
yeah,
just gonna have that connection with your baby.
100%, 100%. You you have an album out. I'm not gonna ask you about the standard, "I'm gonna be touring, I'm gonna be performing, we'll start writing eventually." You've got so many things going on. I really wanted to end on one thing, which was, I just really want humanity to be healthy and happy because so many people that I love never got that chance.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's so beautiful. It's such a lovely quote, and I can, after chatting with you for just this hour alone, I can feel the authenticity. I can feel that you genuinely want to do that. Do you have anything else planned, or you're obviously doing it through your music and the charity? Is there a book coming? Are you doing more? How are you sharing the love?
I just don't even know. I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next yet. It feels like there's just still so much work to be done, and and getting people to live their lives.
Yeah,
I hated mine for so fucking long, and it's just such a shame, like you were saying, I wish that I had more time on this end, but I guess I wouldn't have this whole experience that I'm experiencing now wouldn't be as great if I hadn't gone through all of those tough things, but
that's the
yeah,
hero's
I'm
journey.
crying, man. It's
It's
just so true. I don't know what else to do. It's like I just want people to be well. It's like, when people come into my life and all I hear is like complaining, 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 complaining. And it's like, I want to hear you and I'm with you. And oh, like, where are you making some changes or what are you doing for yourself?
yeah.
And I guess that's it. I just want this world. This world is a beautiful place, and I think it could be better if we were better.
I think that's, wise words in the right spot to end. I really appreciate your time today. Let
Oh my
me
gosh, I love you. I hope we're friends for life. I
I
hope we get to see each other at some point and
I'm not
hug.
too far away. It sounds like the punk community is even smaller. I mean, yes, it's smaller than the music community, but, I was just gonna say that the punk community is so tight and real, and it's one of those scenes that, as much as it's about the traditional rebelling and screw the system, there's just so much love and camaraderie
Oh my
there.
gosh.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm a lifer.
Good.
I'm a lifer. I'm sure we'll cross paths at some point because I'm right above you, right? Vancouver.
Yeah, we're not far. Yeah, we just got to get through this administration, and so y'all want to come back to Seattle, and we all want to get back up to Vancouver.
I don't let anyone stop me from doing anything, and if I have amazing
Good.
people like you to visit, then I'll just come and visit.